Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, Bankroll Challenge, episode 3 is up. Welcome, welcome, welcome. May I just give a quick shout out to spirituality. Guys, meditate all the time. Before you play, before you watch this, just take 30 seconds to breathe. I guarantee it'll be a better viewing experience. Money back refund if it ain't. That your meditation practice will make every aspect of your life better. All you gotta have is just a little bit of dedication. So I've already recorded episode 3 and it is chunky in terms of how many fucking insane hands came up. Like, it was actually ridiculous how many crazy hands we had. There was one hero call that I am particularly proud of. I'm excited for you guys to see that. Tell me if you would have done the same thing. You wouldn't, but tell me if you would. You can lie if you want. So I won't give too much of an intro because there's just so much poker content and I really want to make this an educational video more than anything. Obviously, entertainment is a big part of this process of turning 10K into 100K, but education is the main point. And those two things have a beautiful duality when people make the right content, and that is what I intend to do for you. So when watching this, be mindful, be present. Don't just be sitting on the toilet watching Pornhub on one phone and watching me on the other. Really try and sit and pay attention and think, okay, what would I do in this spot? How would I analyze this range? How would I adjust versus this kind of opponent? Pause the video before all of my decisions and tell yourself, or tell me if you wish in the comments, what you would do in each spot. In fact, if you tell me in the comments what you would do, I'll reply to some of you. If you give like a good thought process, a good chunky thought process of why you would do something, I'll tell you where in your thought process it might be off, where it might be good, and we'll get a little bit of a dialogue going. And whilst we're talking about shit that boosts the algorithm, subscribe. I mean, why not? Just do it. The first hand that we play, we sit down at the 1-2 table. We're on a moving to the 2-5, and we really only have a couple more bullets of 500 pounds. We lost a few hundred pounds in the second episode. In the first episode, I got scammed by the casino. Go check out the second episode of me telling that story of getting scammed by Kingsman Club Casino in London. So our bankroll is sitting a little bit below our starting point of $10,000. So we probably have a couple more bullets at the 500 pounds before we have to drop down to 1-2. But for now, we're aiming for the 500 pound buy-in. In this challenge, I want to be as precise as possible of how I would do it if I had this amount of money and I were grinding it back up again. I would not recommend you guys doing it. If you only have like an 8K bankroll, don't go and play 500 pound buy-ins. It's because I have so much confidence in my play against the people that I'm going to be playing against in the casino, no offense guys. If you are grinding up and you only have a 7-8K bankroll, make sure you're playing at most like 200, 300 pound buy-ins, and then drop down if it gets anywhere close to being a significant part of your bankroll. Don't let your ego come into play. But for me personally, I know that I have such a huge edge on these people. It's very, very likely that I have big winning sessions overall, so I'm gonna have a lot more of an aggressive bankroll management style. So the first hand, we sit down at the 1-2 table, waiting for the 2-5 table, with 450 pounds effective, and the low jack, who's a recreational player, limps. The cutoff, who looks like a professional, but you know, we're playing 1-2. It's you know, it's gonna be probably on the borderline of professional and non-professional. He also limps. We're in the small blind and we look down at King Jack offsuit. Now guys, what are you going to do in this spot? Are you going to call? Are you going to raise? Obviously you're not going to fold. Only one more to call, or you can bump it up. And if you're going to bump it up, what size are you going to bump it up to? And I know this isn't a difficult decision on the face of it, but I promise that these are the kind of decisions that make and break good or great or bad poker players. We make it 12 from the small blind and we get 2 calls. So the pot is gonna be 38 pounds. We have a flop of queen, 10, deuce, 2 diamonds, and we do not have a diamond in our hands. Now, what are we gonna do? So on this board, I decided I was gonna bet relatively small. Theoretically, you're definitely meant to bet pretty big here, but I don't think I can fold somebody off king, queen. I don't think I can fold somebody off top pair in general. And if I had a value hand here, I'd bet big. If I had a bluff here, I'd bet small. So I bet 18 into a pot of what is gonna be 38. The hijack recreational player folds and the cutoff reg calls. Now the turn is an offsuit 6, the brickiest of bricks. A couple more of potentially my bluffs managed to pick up some equity, but apart from that, it's the brickiest of bricks. Now we have a decision. What are we gonna do, guys? What are we gonna do and why? So we want to start putting a lot of this person's range to the test. Now, I'm just gonna go quickly through his range, what he can have. He can have Queen X, he can have 10X, he can have the odds, maybe very sticky, something like Pocket 8s, probably not. He can have Ace Jack, he can have King Jack, and he can have Jack 9 suited, and he can have flush draws. So can we put most of that in a really, really dicey spot with a big size, or do we want to just target a little part of that and go a smaller size, or do we want to check and give up and think that he's probably gonna be a bit too sticky with our image? All of these three options are racing through my mind. I decide to go for the macho man size, and I decide to go 90 pounds. 90 pounds, it's a huge size on this board. We're saying, okay, if you want to put your money in, you can put it in, but we're gonna put your whole stack to the test. And if he's playing 1-2 whilst there's a 2-5 table going on, it probably matters to him a significant amount. So I thought I'd bump it up, fold him off Ace Jack, fold him off King Jack, fold him off Jack 9, fold him off 10X, fold him off some smaller flush draws potentially, maybe even some bigger flush draws, probably not getting the odds. I think it's a good size. What did you guys go for? Tell me in the comments and I will tell you if it was any good. Now we get a tank. Fold, boys, that's right, we got the fold. Feels good, even though it's only 1-2. I probably made an extra 50 pounds in that hand, and it just feels great for the Bankroll challenge. You gotta celebrate the little things in life. So after the table broke, I asked him what he folded, and he told me he folded 10X of diamonds. So he had second pair and a flush draw. So I'm feeling pretty damn good about our sizing. I put this hand in there because I was just absolutely flabbergasted that even with my image, I can get quite a lot of folds. So we move to the 500 NL table. Maximum buying 1,000 pounds, and of course, because we're a boss, we sit down with 500 pounds. Feels kind of strange. And Chatty Reg from episode 2 is there, and a new person that I've never met before. He followed my career, and we're having a lot of back and forth, and he was sitting there with quite a lot of money, complaining about how he was still break even because of the blackjack or something like that, and he was playing pretty damn wild. Shout out to Raf. Even though Raf and I had a lot of rapport going, let me tell you this, and let me tell you this straight, let me be transparent to you guys. I want to take every single penny this man has. You gotta have that killer instinct, and a lot of you guys listening actually won't have that, so find it within yourself. I guarantee it's there if you look deep enough, and unleash it at the table. It's not a toxic thing, it's a fun thing, it's a game thing, it's a competitive thing, but you have to want to sink your fangs into their fucking throats. Anyway, back to the poker. So I thought this is an interesting hand theoretically. Obviously not game theoretically, but just from my perspective, this is a play that I've been playing around with quite a lot. I'll let you guys try and guess exactly what it is. So a recreational player opens the low jack, and we are on the high jack with pocket 10s. He opens to 15. We're sitting on around, I think, 500 pounds at this point. What are we doing, boys? What are we doing and why? Yep, so it's an interesting spot. It's an interesting spot. I think if I weren't playing the Bankroll challenge and it was just me sitting at a poker table with my, infinite buy-ins for this, flex, thanks, editor, for putting that up, I'm sure, then I would feel very comfortable 3-betting this. But I have kind of like ICM-esque implications here, where I only have a couple of shots at 2-5. So I'm going for a little bit of a more low ball approach. Shout out to Danny Negrani. So we flat 10s on the hijack, and the Chatty, a loose reg from last time, he makes it 60 on the button. The recreational player folds, and it's on us. We have 500 pounds. What are we doing, boys? What are we doing and why? So I decided to call. You definitely can just fucking 4-bet get it in, or just rip or something like that. But I thought, because I have quite a big post-up edge, I have quite a large amount of lifetails in this specific player because I played against him before. Only once, but enough to get a good live reads. I really felt like it was a good spot to just flat and outplay and post-flop if I get the chance, and probably get away from our hand if he happens to have a better hand and lose a lot less than most people would. So shout out to lifetails. So we decide to call, and the flop comes 8-7-6 rainbow. There's going to be around 142 pounds in the pot. What are we going to do, boys? What are we going to do and why? Are we going to check call? Are we going to check raise? Are we going to lead? That's all right, boys, we're going to lead. And what size are we going to lead? This is the kind of weird play that I've been playing around with. Let me know what size you might lead on this flop. and why. If you can understand why, that'd be great. So I did also have a live read that I felt like he'd missed this flop, and this is the kind of flop that if he's sitting on like ace king, ace queen, ace jack, king queen, king jack, he's probably just going to check back and going to take his 6 free outs against our hand. So I really don't want to let him just get that turn card for free. But also at the same time, if he does happen to have an overpair and I've misread it somehow, because these live reads aren't 100% accurate, I don't want to be losing too much and just fucking bomb it. So we lead 25 pounds. Think about it. Think about how that would interact with his range. We're getting value from some 8x, 7x, 6x, from something like ace 9, from something like ace 10. And we're also getting all the ace kings, ace queens, ace jacks to fold, which is a fucking glorious result. And if he does happen to have aces, then we get away for cheap. It's actually very difficult for him to raise there because we have all the sets. He doesn't have the sets. We have 10-9. He doesn't have 10-9. We have 8-7 suited. He might have 8-7 suited, who knows? But we have actually a nutted advantage here. And that means that if he does raise, he's some percentage of the time, from his perspective at least, going to be facing a jam. And that is a really shitty spot if you have aces to be jammed on. So it actually puts all parts of his range in kind of an annoying spot. And I absolutely love this play. I've been playing around with these small leads and these kind of boards for a long time. And now I think Pure Solver's been telling people to do it in a few spots, but I think there are still so many boards, so many spots where it's completely underutilized. Even on like ace 7 deuce 4-way, leading just like 10% pop from the big blind or something like that. I've been playing around with it and it's so powerful. I guarantee, guys, just try it, these small leads. Mwah. Anyway, we get the tank folds and I thought that was worth putting in there for educational content. We have another hand where the chatty loose reg opens 20 and Raf, our player of the day, makes it 80 pounds. Now he's been doing this with so much stuff. In fact, there was a hand that he played before where he did that with queen 10 offsuit versus an under the gun open and then called a big 4-bet and somehow like backdoored his way into a straight. So he's got an extraordinarily loose range and we're looking down at ace queen offsuit in the small blind. What are we gonna do, boys? What are we gonna do and why? Sitting on around 660 pounds. We have to get it in, boys. We have to at least 4-bet. Our hand is so strong in comparison to these two ranges. We can't just play it simple and cool. Our hand is just the absolute nuts in this spot. If he happens to have something better than us, well, so be it. He's earned it from his loose aggressive play. I'm gonna make it a very big size here because he's the kind of player that really doesn't like to fold, especially against me. So we make it 210 pounds. This is a big one. This is extraordinarily big for the bankroll. He ends up making the call. We're heads up to the flop. Now there's about a pot-sized bet left and the flop is jack 5-5. Jack 5-5, 2 hearts. We do not have a heart in our hands. We have about a pot-sized bet left and this player is extraordinarily sticky. What are we gonna do? I think there's only one option, boys. Maybe there's a couple. Maybe you could bet small as well, but I think the best thing for us to do here is just jam, 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 jam. I thought there was still a small chance he had ace king. I thought there was a chance he had something like pocket 10s, pocket 9s. The way that I got him speaking pre-flop and I asked him if you got a good hand and he said, yeah. And he was a very honest person. Like in these poker hands, he was actually extraordinarily honest. He had a few lies in him. He definitely could mix it up with some dishonesty, but there was a level of authenticity that I felt from him when he said this that I'd seen in a few of the hands that he and I played and that other people had played with him whilst I sat down that I haven't mentioned here. And I really felt like he had a decent hand. So ended up going for the shove. I thought there was a chance he'd fold something like 10s and 9s, a small chance, maybe like 10%, 20%, 30%. And then I thought we could get him to fold ace king if that's a thing, probably like 80% of the time, 70% of the time. And I felt like if I bet small, all of those hands would still go in. And if he does happen to have a jack or pocket jacks or something like that, which I didn't think he had by getting live reads on the flop, then so be it. I lost my stack, but it's worth it. There's a huge amount in the middle. We just got to jam it in and take our equity. He tank calls us. He turns over the exact hand that I thought he had, pocket 10s. And the turn is, it's a fucking 10. It's a fucking 10. Now, to all of you poker connoisseurs out there, you know what I know. We are DOTT. We're DOTT. We only have one more bullet left. That was a big one, boys. That was a flip. That was a flip. Sometimes you got to win your flips. You'd think as a professional tournament poker player in my background, I'd be good at it by now. In fact, I'm actually phenomenal at flipping. But we're not out. We're not down. We got one more bullet and we're going to make it count. Off to the cashier we go. The cashier that we're not allowed to film at. So in this hand, we're going to introduce a new villain of the story. Introducing Kevin. Kevin, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin, ladies and gentlemen. So Kevin, he's Cambridge educated. He's a beautiful human being. As soon as he sat down, I really liked his energy. I really liked his personality. I could see it in his face, even though he was a bit quiet at first. He came and sat on my right, which sounded like a bit of a punt, but given that Raf was 2 to his right, I think that it was probably a good decision EV-wise. And he is the second best poker player at the table. He plays 100 and 200 Zoom. We didn't know that at the time. And he had a very sound theoretical mind. In fact, he and I had the same ELO in chess.com around about 2019. I think we'd both gone on a downswing, so it was like 1910 at that point. But you know, we're both. I'm just saying, we're both chilling with the aristocrats. We're just living the life in the top 0.1% of the chess players. I'm just kidding. Kevin opens the button. We're on the small blind. We're sitting on around probably 550 pounds at this point, and we have pocket fours. There's a recreational player in the big blind. What are we doing, boys? What are we doing and why? That's right, we call. We're getting in there with the call, and we are heads up to the flop of Jack 9-8 flush draw. So this is definitely not a spot we want to be leading. Our hand is absolute trash. We want to be giving up and potentially checking down versus something like A-side, potentially. But if he puts any amount of money in the pot, he can min c-bet here, the pot would be his. But he decides to check behind, so we have a turn, and the turn is an offsuit 8. Now, what are we doing? What are we doing and why? Well, luckily for us, we happen to have something called live reads. I know I bang on about these a lot, but I get them every single hand that I play against somebody pretty much. And there's a few live reads in particular that if you mix them together in a very particular concoction, oh my god, the precision, the beauty is just... We have a good inkling that he has not seen much of this flop. And given that our hand is ahead of some of his other hands, like ace queen, ace 10, ace king, and they all have so many outs against us, I did want to get a little bit of protection and also to allow us to bluff if we wanted to bluff, especially if it comes double paired, especially if it comes like 4 to a straight and we feel like he hasn't hit it. There's a lot of river cards that I want to bluff on, and we can't do that if we check. We can do that if we bet small, because we can pretend that we were betting small with some kind of jack hand, some kind of straight hand if we hit the straight on the river. So I decided to bet 15 into a pot of 35. I think it's a good size. We actually get him to fold something like 6s and 5s as well. We also get some calls from some better hands. We get him to fold maybe some like ace deuces. I think it's a good size, especially given that we think that he hasn't hit the flop very hard. He makes the call, and the river is the offsuit 9. Now, to all of you super poker connoisseurs out there, you'll know that 3 pair, no bueno. But let me give you a quick trick that I saw somebody do at the poker table. I once saw somebody table 3 pair so confidently when they had an underpair to the 2 pair on the board, so they had nothing, they had played the board. They tabled it so confidently that they made a recreational player muck his hand. And nobody at the table said a fucking thing. There were just like a few wry smiles from the professionals to each other, and all the recreationals were like carrying on, just like, yeah. And that was in a 3.5K tournament in LA. So just out there, I don't know if I'm the kind of person to do that. I've never done it, so I guess I'm not. But just putting that out there, it's a player that I do not believe is unethical at all. So given that we have an underpair to the board, this is one of the cards that I wanted to be bluffing on. There is going to be 65 in the pot. How much are we going to bet, boys? How much are we going to bet and why? And we do have the live read that he hasn't hit. I like it. So I think telepathically I got a few messages from you from the future, because, you know, time, future, present, all the same thing. They're intertwined when we're talking about consciousness. Fabric of the universe is energy, is consciousness, is awareness. And does that really precede time? Is it part of time? Is it separate from time, or is it time itself? Think about it. So I feel like I'm getting a few good answers from this. I think it's actually a very good spot that now you guys have watched me play, you probably get an idea of how I play, and hopefully as well take some lessons and applied it to your own game. In fact, I've actually got a new student recently called Tien, and watching him play, I'm seeing him do like min-raise blocker bets and over bets and leading in all the same spots, and I think it's honestly so rewarding to see somebody crush poker using a lot of the way that I play and implementing it into their own creative style. It's so beautiful. And by the way, I do one-on-one coaching. It is $500 an hour or discounted at higher amounts. I understand that isn't affordable for most people, but if you're a high stakes, mid stakes professional, I guarantee I've got a lot to teach you. I love a few tricks up my sleeve. That's right, we make it 125 pounds to go. We did have the live read, they didn't have much, and we get the very quick fold from what I believe was ace high, because it wasn't a snap fold, it was like a 5-second fold. So I think it's a really, really good sizing. I think he probably had something like ace 10, ace 7, ace queen, ace king, and we did not give him a chance to call that, especially these GTO players. They know that they can have like a 9 here, they know they can have an 8 here, they know they can have a jack, maybe pocket queens even. So given that he thinks that he can have all those hands and we know that he can't because of live reads, there's actually an information disparity. There's like an information gradient that goes from, you know, him to us. And this is why live reads can be so powerful against these GTO players, because they think that their range is X, when actually their range is like X take away Y. You know, and when we know we're playing against a specific part of their range, we can actually manipulate their play using our information disparity. Anyway, to the next hand. So the chatty reg opens to 20. We've got a call from Raf. These are mid position versus hijack. The button, a very tight recreational player who's pretty good at poker, actually calls the button. We're in the big blind with ace 10 off. What are we doing, boys? And why? And remember to subscribe to the channel, by the way, guys. Quid pro quo, as they say. That's right, we bump it up. Ace 10 off's too good against these very loose ranges, and especially with Raf being there, he has such a big calling range. I think if we squeeze here, he's going to be calling all of his like 10-6 suiteds. He's going to be calling all of his like ace 3 offs. So we got to get our value with our ace 10, and the absolute dream happens. We get the dream swap, we get a fold from the chatty man, we get a call from Raf himself, and we get a fold from the button, and the flop is the dream queen, queen 3 rainbow. God damn it. Just needed a 10. I'll take a 10. I feel like we double up so much if we hit top pair. But never mind. We're actually still ahead of a decent amount of his range because he has such a wide range. So there's around 280 in the pot. I definitely want to be c-betting here. So some people are trying to take their ace highs to showdown. In so many spots, I think they're just absolutely punting away. As soon as you start trying to take your ace high to showdown, in most spots, people just know you have ace high. There's so many spots where people are like, oh, I'll take my ace high down, I'll just try and check it down. And then the other person knows you have ace high and they just bet at some point. You're like, well, I guess they had this one. There's so many situations. Unless you're playing against a super genius or a supercomputer, you just got to be c-betting these dry boards, getting him to fold out all of their trash that could bluff you if you check. So we bet 75. And this size, I wanted to still target a lot of his floats. He was the kind of person to just stick around with like king jack, king 10, jack 10, etc. So I decided to go a size that they would all definitely call and go into check to side mode based on live reads. Again, taking that wheel, taking that point of control and allowing it to be us that's making the decisions instead of him making the decisions against us. As much as I can do that, I like to do that. I like to be the one who's making decisions, so the variance is less in their minds and the variance is more in our decision-making process. And I believe because we're making way better decisions than they are, then we're actually going to be printing EV by taking control in a lot of these hands. So to take control, we go small and then check turn to get some live reads. You've seen me do this before in episode 2. Hopefully you're getting the idea of it. He calls and we're off to a deuce turn, and we're going into check to side mode. We check, and surprisingly he actually checks back here. Now I didn't know what to make of it. I thought that it was very likely he had some kind of ace high hand, maybe like ace 5, ace 6, ace 7, maybe some like small pocket pair that didn't want to bet itself, but I even thought that those would bet, so I wasn't sure. And the river is, of course, the Barry, the ace from space. Beautiful to see. Now there's a decision here for sure. There is absolutely a decision. And I'll let you guys just think about this, mull it over for a little bit. You're kind of getting an idea of how Raf plays and our image against him. He perceives us as extraordinarily aggressive, which we are. And he's definitely not the kind to fold against us. So what are we gonna do? So if we think about his range, he's got a bunch of small pairs. Then he's also got some ace-x. Now I thought he was more ace-x heavy than not. And given that, I decided to check. Now I know that this kind of goes against what I was saying, that he'll probably call us, but imagine he's got ace 5. He was definitely the kind of person to bet ace 5 on the river. In fact, I snap checked the river. As soon as I saw it, I snap checked to give him the impression, luckily my brain works pretty quick, just saying, to give him the impression that we didn't like the ace. I was so confident he was gonna bet an ace himself, but he decides to check back the old king 3. So we give him the wry apology, but you know, we were ahead on 2 of the 4 streets, so I'm not feeling too bad about it. And we move on to the next hand, and that's just putting in the end there. Theoretically, it actually was a really interesting flop and river decision, and kind of turn as well. And pre-flop as well is actually all pretty interesting, but also it's giving you an idea of how Raf is playing. He's going to be the main man in these insane hands coming up. So this is a pretty crazy hand. I'll let you guys tell me what you would have done in this kind of spot. We open £20 from the hijack with ace-3 off. I know this is pretty loose. I know it's pretty loose. There are a lot of recreational players ahead of me, and Raf, our main man, was in the big blinds. And I opened a little bit bigger. I've been opening different sizes with different hands. Ace-3 off is the kind of hand I want to get quite a lot of folds with, but I actually also want to get heads up with Raf, and I didn't think he was even going to fold like deuce-3 suited in the big blind. So I thought it was a really good chance that if we go 20 here, then we're going to get heads up. And again, you won't get many poker teachers telling you to change up your raising sizes pre-flop, but it is something that is very underutilized. There's a lot of money to be made if you can be the person that's making good decisions about how to change up your different sizes. And nobody's going to know if you do it smart. Nobody's going to know that you're doing it with these hands and not these hands. And if they do, you can try to flip the script, try and bounce it a little bit, but still stay exploitative and exploitable. And for me, that is what poker is all about, is making these very nuanced decisions and not trying to like close up and become so balanced that nobody can exploit you, because then you're not able to exploit other people. So we make it 20, and exactly what we wanted to happen happens. Raf calls in the big blind. Let's go. The flop comes 10-5-5 rainbow. It's not the best flop in the world. However, we do have quite a fucking good hand here. Ace high, not so bad. What would you do, guys? What would you do and why? Again, he's really not the kind to fold. I could see him folding something if he had like deuce-3 suited, no backdoor or something like that. Maybe if he had like king-3 offsuit or something like that, I could see him folding that. I decided to go for the c-bet for a few reasons, which will come clear in the rest of the hand. He calls. We have a pretty good live read. He doesn't have a 10 or a 5. I'll just give you that information for free. The turn comes the jack. It's on us. I'm checking behind. Got a plan up my sleeves. Even though I don't have sleeves today, I did at the point in time. And there was a plan up there, somewhere lurking. The river is a queen. He decides to bet 50 pounds. We have ace high. We don't have very good hands. What are we going to do, boys? What are we going to do and why? Queen on the river. He bets 50 pounds. What are we going to do? I know that a lot of you out there, you're probably thinking the same thing as me. Oh, we got ace high. What can we do? We can either fold or we can either raise. Or we can look Raf damn straight in the eyes and say, I don't think you got it, son. Old school poker, boom. We call, we put the 50 pounds in. That's right, ace high hero call. We tell him, I don't even got 2 pair. I'm gonna call anyway. And he shows me, he flop quads. That's probably why he looked nervous. He flop quads. Let me know how good you think my play is in the chat. And as people are typing that, the rest of you can know. I'm kidding, he had king-8 offsuit, boys. He had king high. We got the read right. Oh man, that's probably one of the sickest hero calls I've ever made. Obviously, it's quite a small pot in terms of like my bankroll and also in terms of the game. But to make that call there, you got to have very, very particular reads. And I'm absolutely so proud of that one. I'm not even gonna bother trying not to flex. That was a sick fucking soul read. We got him, boys. On to the next one. I hope at least one person out there was typing out that it was a terrible call, and then here's me celebrating over the top. I hope one person out there feels miserable, and the rest of you that are on my team, you feel great, because fuck yeah, the Bankroll Challenge is heading upwards. This content's making me feel great. Being rewarded in these kind of spots where we get to make these soul reads against people is my favorite thing in poker. So moving on to the next hand, we've got momentum on our side. People have seen that they can't fuck with us. No, I'm just kidding. So crazy spot. We are sitting on 750 pounds at this point. We're still a little bit down for the day, although we did make some on the 1-2. We then punted off a stack at the 2-5. So we're probably like a couple of £100 down, 150 pounds down. Not so bad, but still we gotta grind it back. So a tight player opens +1. 8-handed. So there's 6 people behind him, he opens. We are in the hijack with ace queen off. He's open to 15. We 3-bet to 50 pounds. You could definitely call here, you can definitely 3-bet. But Raf was actually the main target in this table. He was calling, cold calling, 4-betting, 3-betting, all of this stuff with pretty much anything. If I thought that he wasn't the kind of person to like cold call 3-bets or sometimes 4-bet me, then I would have just flat. But given that he was there and he was playing pretty crazy in that much of an intense way, I decided to go for a 3-bet here. And lo and behold, the button cold calls, who's I think the chatty reg. So the chatty reg cold calls the button. Rafa is in the big blinds. He makes it 190. So we haven't actually seen him 4-bet yet. We've seen him do so many crazy stuff that I just assumed 4-bet was part of his play. So Raf makes it 190 to go. Fold from the +1. It's on us with ace queen offsuit. And we're not allowed to talk to him because there's another player in the hand, so it's actually a lot harder to get reads from him. We're looking at him. It does look like he's probably got something. He hasn't 4-bet yet, although I did believe he was capable of doing it light. It's a really tough decision. What are we gonna do, boys? What are we gonna do and why? Well, I don't fault you for doing any of the 3 options here. Go Doug Polk style and say any of the 3 are okay. Not because we're mixing some frequencies or any bollocks like that, but because the EV of these 3 seem really, really close from my perspective. We end up saying, you know what, Raf? If it's our time to die, it's our time to die. I'm all in. I'm all in. The button gets out of the way and it's on Raf. He's tanking. We've just put in 150 big blinds with ace queen offsuit when under the gun +1 opened 8-handed. This is crazy town. This is what live poker's like, man. It's so wild. It's the dynamics that you can get, and he's tanking, he's tanking, he's tanking. Now, Raf is an interesting player. I don't know if he's the kind of person to tank jacks here. I don't know if he's the kind of person to tank like ace jack here or whatever it is. He could even be tanking ace king for all I know. He really was an interesting player, and he ends up making the fold, boys. We got him. He folded ace queen himself. Holy shit. We folded him off the chop. He actually made a kind of standard 4-bet there. It was actually a pretty good 4-bet. So kudos to him for playing that hand pretty well. But we managed to put the pedal to the metal, put our balls on the table, swing our dick around, or whatever the sayings are. And we're up to around £1,000. We're in profit for the day, boys. Let's fucking go. Momentum is on our team as Raf opens under the gun. Now, this is the 2nd time in a row that we're going to 3-bet him as we look down at ace king in this exact configuration of seats. Last door bet, we 3-bet and it went 3-way and we just gave up, so I didn't involve it in the vlog. But there's a little bit of dynamic, and Raf's definitely the kind of person to pay attention to these kinds of dynamics. So, he opens under the gun to 25. We are on the hijack. We make it 125 with ace king. Obviously, normally a 3-bet size, it would be 75 to 90, something like that, depending on the depth and different strategies you're using. But Raf's a particular kind of player. We want to get it heads up, and I don't think he's going to be folding a single hand against us at this point. He's definitely on tilt, as he's mentioned about 16 times. So big it is. He calls off to the flop. It is a flop of Jack 6-4, 2 clubs. And if you've been paying attention to the rest of the video, you'll know exactly what we want to do on this flop. Think about it. No, seriously, think about it. It's worth thinking about. So into a pot of 257, we c-bet 75. 75 pounds to go, my friends. Jack 6-4, 2 clubs. You have the ace of clubs. The reason for that is we think we can get value against him on the flop. We're going to be ahead a decent amount of the time. We lose less if he has a jack or something like that. We can get some good reads, and also we can check back the turn and make some good river decisions. He calls. I don't know if he would have folded a single hand in this spot. I honestly think he could have called absolutely anything. Boys, if there's ever a fucking time for you to channel all of your energy to the past Charlie sitting in the hippodrome, this is it. This is the time. 3, 2, 1, subscribe to the channel, and that's right, boys, we're here. Fucking offsuit ace against Raf. It's the dream. We finally got a pair. No more hero calling for us to do. We fire 200, leaving 400 behind, and he goes all in. Now, I've got to be honest, as he went all in, this was my thought process. Oh God, I haven't seen him bluff this kind of spot ever. This is definitely not a bluff I call. So we're obviously snap calling. Raf has given us a good enough image, and if he's got ace jack, if he's got a set, if he's got something else, we'll fucking have at it. He can probably also have a bunch of other stuff, including pretty much any ace. We look at his cards. He's got an ace and a fucking queen, boys, and a fucking queen. Let's go. Let's fucking go. We got him. We got him, finally. It's actually a pretty standard hand all round, all things considered, apart from, I guess, the sizing is a little bit different. So he asks us once or twice, and I say, for the fucking vlog, let's go once. It's easy to say that when you've got 93%, but it felt good to say it. We go once. He'd also already said to somebody else that he was only going to go once in another hand, so I felt comfortable saying in this one. For the vlog, one time, bricks out. Let's go, boys. This is a huge pot. This is the biggest pot of the day by a large margin, and it's only going to go up from here. Interestingly enough, this random cooler happened whilst I was at the table. We opened queen 9 offsuit, 3 other people in there, and the flop comes ace-3 deuce, flush draw. We're obviously out of there. One guy, 4-5 of diamonds. One guy, pocket threes. Another guy manages to fold pocket deuces. Crazy. It ran out as a chop for the other two. The deuces would have hit quads on the second one, but lost to the straight flush of the 4-5 of diamond. It was a crazy, crazy motherfucking hand. Kudos to the reg for getting out of the way with bottom set there. It's pretty hard to get out of the way in these spots, but he managed to do it, so congratulations to him. So the momentum is definitely on our side now. Raf is extraordinarily tilted and wants to get in as many pots with me as possible. We open queens from the hijack. A recreational player calls the cutoff. A small blind professional, the one that folded the set of deuces, squeezes out the small blind for 110. Raf himself, the one, the only Raf man, cold calls. It's on us. What are we gonna do? We're all playing pretty damn deep. Like everybody's at least like 1.4K, apart from the recreational player who's the least relevant person to be taking into account here. What are we gonna do, boys? It's the Bankroll challenge. If we play a huge pot here, we could now be losing. If we lose this pot, you know, if we get stacked or double somebody up, we could be down for the day. Do we want to try and lock up a win? No, we don't want to lock up a win. Get out of my YouTube video if you thought we were going to fucking lock up a win with queens.
Get the hell out! Get out!
Of course, we make it 355 to go. It's a great size. Anything that will just keep raffing with whatever he's got, but also is big enough that we don't want to give everybody a good price. We don't want to take queens 3 away. That's insane. 2 folds, and the man, the myth, the legend, Raf himself gives us some action off to a flop. We see 4, 6, good so far. Queen, we see a queen. We see a fucking queen, boys. Let's go. It's like 850 in the pot. And so it's queen 6-4, 2 diamonds. We do not have a diamond. And what are we gonna do? There's a decent amount behind. There's a good like 1,500 behind. That's right, we go for the small C bet. We do not want him to fold a single hand. We have everything basically drawing dead apart from straight draws and flush draws. We bet, we bet 100 pounds. 100 to go, sir. He's like, that's a very fair and reasonable price, as you were. I'm like, okay, brilliant. Turn the jack of diamonds. That's not what we wanted to see. However, we do have some reads on him, and I don't think he's hit it. I think that take the normal combos that he has and divide it by 3 for the read that we have. Something like that. Intuitively, you get a bit of a data sample after collecting live tails for so many years, and I'd say we could probably decrease it by 67% roughly. So I really think that we still have the best hand a huge amount of the time, but obviously a lot of his hands can now have equity. If he has something like ace-10 with a diamond, if he has something, I don't know, just any like 8s with a diamond, hands like that, got a little bit more equity. So what are we gonna do on the turn? We have about 1450 behind. Now, I wanted to keep in as many hands as I could still. I obviously still wanted to charge a decent amount of draws, but also, you know, if he's sitting there with pocket 10s, if he's sitting there with a queen even, he might consider folding. With people like Raf, he's definitely a stationary guy, but he was unpredictable in a lot of senses. So I go for the 355 on the turn. He gives me a reasonably quick call, maybe a 15-second call, which for the size of the pot, you know, I'm betting a good like 71 big blinds here, which is pretty insane. He gives me a 10 to 15-second call. There's a few rivers that I want to see. I wouldn't mind seeing a queen, wouldn't mind seeing a 6, wouldn't mind seeing a jack, wouldn't mind seeing a 4. The river is the offsuit fucking 4. Oh my God, it's happening. Our energy must be good. The karmic gods must be smiling on us. We must have done some damn good things in our past lives or this lives, who knows? It's on us. All we have to do now is decide how to go all in. We have around 959 pounds behind. Around that, roughly. Estimate, 959. We go for the tank. I'm all in. And in these kind of spots, you really need to be thinking about what level your opponent's on. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that video of me and Leon Sukanik, where I speech played him whilst bluffing for a very large amount of time, and he folded a hand that he would never usually fold. And the way that I worked against Leon is that, you know, he had He has quite a big ego, or at least he did at that time. And it was, I was selling him the idea, selling him the perception that he was going to make a sick read and own a professional by making this huge fold. And he ended up making the huge fold. Now, you really need to kind of understand what level the other person is going to be on. Against some people, I try to act nervous in these situations with top boat on the river. Against some people, I try and act very confident. Against some people, I won't give off too much and it'll be very subtly confident or very subtly nervous. Against Raf, with all the love and all the respect to him, I started breathing real fucking heavy. I started having aneurysms on my insides. I started shitting myself metaphorically, figuratively, and who knows, maybe a little bit literally.
Bruh.
My pulse was racing, my heart was beating, my sweat was beading. He gives us the 3-minute stare down. There's silence on the table. He starts asking us some questions. We give very jerky, faux confident, but very obviously faux confident answers, saying, yeah, no, yeah, it's fine. No, do whatever. It's for the vlog, you know, stuff like that. Really selling it. I gotta be honest, I feel like I deserve some kind of award, Oscar, Emmy for it. I don't know what the film awards are called. I feel like I could be known as some kind of acting authority of the world now after this performance. It truly was blessed. And we eventually end up getting the tank call. We end up getting the tank call, boys. Let's go. Let's go. Such a fucking huge pot. Such a huge pot. Now, we stay for another orbit after this monstrous pot. We end up around 2,600 pounds. I'll let my editor put it on the screen here of how much we're now on. The Bankroll challenge is back. I'm feeling so confident and now so motivated to get going. I had a really, really good time. My energy was really strong. I didn't let kind of the other people's energy kind of sink me down, as London can be really heavy, especially when I'm spending all my time around this fucking paradise. But I managed to prepare myself, I meditated well for it, and I stayed strong, I stayed happy, I stayed principled, stayed disciplined. I'm giving myself a pat on the foot for that one. I'll let future Charlie give you the outro that you're wanting. I'll let you see the in-time reaction to what happens. And please remember that for the sake and for the merit of being human, you are loved, you are worthy. Stay strong, crush souls. Peace, my friends. All the love. Now we have it here, the star of the show, Jack. Jack, what do you have to say for yourself?
Charlie's a very good poker player and I'm a big fan.
He said it was camera shy, so I thought I'd put him on the spot. We fucking did it, boys, we did it. We cashed out for an extra 2,300 pounds or something. The challenge is back on, and we bumped into our friends.
Hello boys.
Alex.
Avoid this man.
Get him on the camera.
Avoid this man, just so you know.
Avoid this man. It's dangerous.
I don't have to blow your face. No, alright, that's a no. Anything that isn't a no is a yes, that's perfect. So yeah, it took us a while to feel comfortable on the table after spending so much fucking time sitting around with dogs, cats, Hannah and nature to sit down with 8 grubby dudes at a poker table. It's always a bit difficult to kind of settle in, but having done this for a good 8 years, you think I'd be better at it. We're a little bit more sensitive than we used to be, but we fucking did it, man. Some of those hands, fucking this way. It's always hold it this way. Hold it this way.
Thumb up the way as well.
Yeah, fuck that. so many of those hands at the end are so sick. I'm so excited to have shared this. I'm sure you guys would have seen how crazy some of that action was. Hopefully you guys aren't getting exactly which casino this is, because I don't want to give free advertisements to these bureaucratic assholes. Yeah, I'm gonna go home now. Managed to kind of not hit and run because I donated another 300 pounds at the end in a hand that I definitely could have not done. So, you know, psychologically I definitely didn't hit and run them because I'd burn some EV there maybe. And now I'm gonna get a decent night's sleep and maybe even fucking come back tomorrow. Fuck it. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe the next day. I'm so excited for this. And soon we're gonna have my car back.
Oh, the win.
Oh my god, so I have to get a fucking Uber down. Alright. You are truly a beautiful soul. Trapped inside a meat sack of a body. Escape it, enlighten, meditate. Peace.